So, you have gotten into the amazing game that is Dungeons and Dragons, but your friends don't seem all that interested. Don't worry, we got you covered. Welcome to Demystifying D&D. I'm today's host, Justin Powell, and we are going to be talking about how to get your friends to play D&D so that you can all go on amazing, fantastical adventures together. Please like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So I've been called by friends the D&D dealer because I'm always looking to get new people into the game. So I have some experience getting people into D&D. I have a couple of different campaigns that I run that are mainly made up of people that I kind of sold the game to. In fact, I'm running a game very soon with a new group of people that I convinced to play. So I'm going to give you some tips and hopefully they help. The first tip is to explain D&D to them in a way that is relatable. One of the first things I like to say is it's basically a group version of a choose-your-own adventure game. I also like to give them references for the style or tone of the game that I'm going to bring them into. So I might mention Lord of the Rings or Skyrim or Game of Thrones, minus that awful Season 8. Take that, D&D. This D&D, not this D&D. The second tip is to share your enthusiasm about D&D with your friends. We're naturally drawn to people who are passionate about their hobbies. So maybe you can share some funny stories that happened in your D&D game or a particularly epic boss battle. They might find this intriguing enough to keep asking you questions and maybe get interested themselves. Now usually I can get them to try out a game pretty easily with just those two methods. The other thing you can do is just every now and then ask if they want to try it out. Try not to push it too much. You don't want to be that friend that is just constantly selling the game and maybe overhyping it for them. But every now and then, ask them if they might be interested in playing and see what they think. So we've got them interested in D&D now. They've agreed to a session. But now we have to make sure that that interest stays piqued throughout the entire game. How do we do that? Well, let's start with this next tip. The third tip is, for the love of God, keep it simple when starting out. If your friends agree to play and you say, great, go ahead and read this player's handbook, you're gonna have to know all those rules. Also, you're gonna need a dice set. Oh, and can you make your own character? Their heads will explode. So instead, try to keep it simple for them because nobody wants to go through all of these manuals just to play a game that they've never even tried before. Instead, keep it simple. Instead of telling them to go buy dice, give that to them as an option, but then tell them some other ways that you can do it. There are dice rolling apps, and worst case scenario, you can always roll the dice yourself for them, like Abed in that episode of Community. When it comes to characters, I suggest you either get pre-generated character sheets for them to choose from, or you make about 10 of your own that they can choose from. Again, the more we can streamline this process for newcomers, the more likely it is they'll enjoy it and want to play again. However, every group is different, so talk to your friends beforehand. If creating a character does seem like something they're interested in, then maybe you can spend some time doing that before a session as well. Another way we can keep it simple is by limiting the party size. I always think when you're introducing new people to D&D, the ideal size is 4. That way everyone gets time to shine and gets to play the game. You can probably do 5 as well, but 4 or 5 I would say is the max. Going up to 6 or 7, the game starts to drag on, particularly in combat, and that's where you might lose some people. Fourth tip is to start them off with a one-shot. Plus, I'll explain. Starting brand new players out on a long-term campaign can be somewhat daunting, and often there's so much story setup that it's tough to get them really engaged. Instead, I suggest running a one-shot that can be wrapped up in one night with maybe a little question mark tacked on at the end. For example, let's say throughout the adventure, the players end up taking down a bandit camp. Afterwards, when they are searching through the encampment, maybe they come across a map with different pinpoints marked in there. Scribbled in the top corner is a line that says, "The retribution is nigh," as well as a insignia of a cult that perhaps one of your players know. This allows you to wrap up the one-shot story in one night, but leave the door open a crack just in case they need a sequel. The fifth tip is to know what your players want. Now, even though they've never played D&D before, there's still ways to get information that will help you craft a game that they might find more enjoyable. Are they more inclined to mysteries or action movies? Are they bigger fans of magic or hack and slash fantasy? Figure out what kind of stories or characters they're drawn to and plan your session accordingly. For example, I once had a friend who was really into the show Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. So when I was pre-generating characters for them, I came up with a character who was a master detective. So they got to play their own version of Sherlock. If you really don't know what to give them in terms of a story, I suggest trying to give them a little bit of every aspect D&D might have to offer. So have some roleplay opportunities, have a combat, maybe just one, but two if you think they'd really like that. A puzzle or a riddle they have to solve, perhaps even some moment where they have to try and sneak away. Maybe even a chase scene, I don't know. But basically give them a platter of different D&D options so that they can latch on to whatever they find most interesting. The last tip is not the rule of cool. Run the day. I gotta put these back on. I kind of mentioned this before with the keep it simple rule, but go easy on new D&D players and allow the wackiness of D&D to find its way into the game. If they roll a natural 1 while trying to attack an unsuspecting guard, describe how, because of the natural 1, they end up giving the guard a light shoulder massage, and the guard turns around and he is into it. Conversely, if they roll high, describe in great detail how successful they are. On their killing blows, describe how the light from the fire behind casts them in this incredible red-orange glow, and how the doves fly off just as their axe severs the head from the body of the Minotaur. Ultimately, there is no guarantee that someone will love D&D and be invested enough to keep playing further on. All we can do as Dungeon Masters and friends is try to show them what an amazing game this is. Hope these tips helped, and if you have any tips of your own for how to get people into D&D, please comment down below so that we can all help each other out. This video would not have been possible without some incredible articles I found online, so be sure to check those out in the description below. And if you found this video helpful at all, again, please like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on more great D&D content. Until next time, no guts, no story.